President Trump also blasting Senator John McCain tonight for announcing he'd vote no on the GOP's health care bill. I want to talk about it with CNN's senior political commentator and former U.S. Senator Rick Santorum, one of the architects of the Graham-Cassidy bill, and also Barbara Boxer. She joins us now. You can see we're getting her shot set up there. So, Senator Santorum, I'm going to start with you. This afternoon, Senator John McCain announced that he cannot, in good conscience, he said, those are his words, vote for the Graham-Cassidy proposal to repeal and replace Obamacare. You worked on the drafting of this legislation. Can it survive this blow?
Yeah, it sure can. You know, we have there's still votes out there that can be gotten, and look, as anybody who's ever worked in the United States Senate knows, no vote is counted until it's counted. And some people may say, well, they're not supporting it. I mean, John McCain gave 3 reasons. One was a Congressional Budget Office score. Well, there's going to be a Congressional Budget Office score before the vote. So we're down to 2 reasons, by the way, neither of which are about the bill. He's actually told Senator Graham and others that he actually likes the bill. He thinks the bill is the right approach. He thinks the block grant is fine. He said that his governor, Doug Ducey, has been a strong proponent of this bill. It does a lot for Arizona. It's going to be beneficial to his state. It is not something that he disagrees with philosophically. He just doesn't like the process.
Two things. It's only a partial score from the CBO. It won't be a full score from the CBO. And Senator John McCain has said, really not commented on the legislation. What he has said is that he wanted it to go through the normal process. He wanted a bipartisan bill. That doesn't accomplish any of that. So you're not going to get John McCain back no matter what. So
well,
what votes?
All I would say is that, people, we're going to have a hearing on Monday. We're going to have a CBO score on Monday. We're going to have
a partial CBO score.
Well, partial in what respect? I mean, with respect to the Budget Act says that the Congressional Budget Office has to give what the impact is on the federal budget. Everything else that CBO is doing is not required under the Budget Act.
With respect to the number of people who could or will
That's right.
lose
That's not required under the Budget Act.
But that's important for viewers and for people who are for Americans.
If you believe CBO, and I don't think anybody in the Congress, Republican or Democrats, some want to believe CBO because it's actually it supports some of the things they say. But I don't. Even Jonathan Gruber, who is one of the architects of Obamacare, throws away the CBO estimates that literally millions of people, more than half the people they say are going to drop coverage because of the Republican plans, ours or anybody else's, they say are going to drop plans simply because the because the individual mandate goes away. Jonathan Gruber wrote an article saying that's just ridiculous. I mean, that's not the reason people drop coverage. It's because the government's not forcing them to get it.
Let me ask you, Senator Santorum, then who are they supposed to believe? The Republicans who want this bill, the Democrats who don't want this bill, or the nonpartisan CBO?
I think what they have to believe is what's actually before them. Look at what the bill does. The bill takes.
Isn't that what the CBO does?
Well, no. I mean, look at what the bill does. The bill takes $1.2 trillion. All the money that is spent on Obamacare, with the exception of the money that is taxed on the American people, working men and women who are getting taxed right now by Obamacare for not buying insurance. We're going to stop taxing people who are being punished by Obamacare for not purchasing insurance. We're removing that tax. And we're going to remove a tax which is actually starting right now next month on employers. I don't know if you know this, Don, but President Obama delayed the implementation of full Obamacare. Full Obamacare was an employer mandate. There's about $5 billion in tax bills going out next month to employers, about 90,000 employers in this country, and it's going to probably cost $5 to $10 billion for them to have to comply with all the accounting they have to do.
I want to get Barbara Boxer in because, and I didn't have her responding. I was doing my best to channel you, Barbara Boxer, because her shot wasn't ready. But how do you respond to what the senator is saying?
Well, I served with Rick. Hi, Rick.
How you doing, Barbara?
For many years. And Rick Santorum would no sooner vote for anything if it didn't have a score. So let's put that one aside. You cannot say you're a fiscal conservative and push ahead. Secondly, not one thing my friend said that addressed the issue here. What does this mean for America's families? And that's what's important, and that's why John McCain is so brave to do this. Because what he's saying is, when you have a bill that is going to essentially throw a hand, these are my words, throw a hand grenade into the healthcare system, which is 1/6 of our economy. Millions of people got healthcare because of the Affordable Care Act. Now you're just trying to meet an artificial deadline, and what is going to happen to our families is terrible. Don't listen to me. Listen to the American Medical Association, the Cancer Society, the Diabetes Association, even the health insurance companies. You can just go on and on. Jimmy Kimmel, people who know they've had to deal with pre-existing conditions. This is not the way to govern, and I am so touched by John McCain because he once again has put his country ahead of anything else.
Can I ask you something? Because John McCain is calling for, and Rick Santorum and I were talking about this before you joined us. He's called for a regular order, a bipartisan approach. Is that realistic at this point?
Of course it's realistic. This is an artificial deadline. Can you imagine bringing up a bill like this, Dawn and Rick, and you've got 90 seconds to 2 minutes to debate it? This is all baloney. There is no rush. When the Democrats did the Affordable Care Act, Republicans kept saying we were being partisan. But we accepted over 100 amendments from Republicans. It took us months and months to do that bill. So what John McCain is saying, let's not throw a hand grenade into the system. Let's slow it down, take a deep breath. Let's make sure that people are going to be kept whole while we debate. Put every proposal on the table, including this one,
but Senator,
and let's see where we need to go.
Senator Santorum and others who support the bill, their argument has been that, there is no time, that premiums are going up when it comes to the Affordable Care Act, that it's collapsing, and this is their language, collapsing under its own weight. There's no time. Time is running out. How do you respond to that?
Well, it makes no sense because we do have problems with the exchanges, but that's only 6% of the people who have health insurance get it that way. Medicaid is fine. We know Medicare is fine. We know that we have to deal with some of the problems. But again, we have 20 million more people who are covered. They can go to sleep at night. I know the days. I got to tell you something. When I was a senator, I was there 24 years, people would tell me, and this is fresh in my mind, that they get down on their hands and knees when they were in their 50s and say, I can't wait till I turn 65 to get on Medicare. I'm so nervous if something happens to me or my family. We have addressed that issue. And when you play back Senator Santorum's words, which are, he's good at presenting the case.
And I want him to be able to respond.
There's no emotion. There's no emotion in it. There's no talking about our families. The fact of the matter is, Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, either way you call it, it's being subverted because this president doesn't like it, and he has cut out all the funds to advertise the exchanges, but we still are signing people up, and we can fix it. Last point I'll make. Let's bring back bipartisanship. Lamar Alexander, Patty Murray, I just talked to Patty before I got on the show. She says she's so excited to work with him. She loves working with him. Let's get back to those days when Republicans and Democrats worked together.
Rick, I want to give you the last word, and I want to give you a chance to respond. Go ahead.
Well, on 2 points. First, on Patty and Lamar. Lamar Alexander said at a lunch, I happened to be in attendance to it, that there was no bipartisanship going on. Patty Murray actually wouldn't negotiate any changes to Obamacare. There were anything substantive that could be passed in the United States Senate. Basically, the Democratic demand was just give us the money, and you're stuck with the way it is right now. That's the bipartisanship that I'm just telling you what Lamar Alexander said. That's number one. Number two, I love this idea that somehow or another, if you're out there advocating for a system that you believe better treats the people of this country, is that you don't care about families. I'm someone who's on the Obamacare exchanges. I'm someone who has a child with pre-existing condition. I'm someone who pays $30,000 a year for health insurance, for affordable insurance, for a silver plan on the Obamacare exchanges. The bottom line is most people can't afford. Very few people can afford $30,000 insurance. If that's affordable to you, Barbara, if that's affordable to you, Don, that's great. It's not for millions of Americans. This system is broken. And the bottom line is, I'm out here fighting for it, doing this out of my own time, because I want American families and people who have children with disabilities to have the ability to get affordable insurance.
But would
and
your
that's the only
insurance
way we're
costs
going to
be
do that
worse?
is to get the money closer to the people, allow innovation, quit doing this one-size-fits-all. Everybody has
with
to
all
do
due
it our
respect,
way.
Senator,
It's
but
broken.
would your situation be worse? Wouldn't you actually pay more if you didn't have the Affordable Care Act, if you weren't on that plan? Couldn't you be paying more money than the $30,000
Look,
that you're paying now?
let me just say this. I believe that we should have pre-existing condition coverage, and the Graham-Cassidy bill actually is better. Let me just say this one more time. Is better on pre-existing condition. Let me explain why. I wrote it, so let me explain why. I helped write it with Lindsey Graham and Bill Cassidy, because it says that every state has to comply with pre-existing condition. But if you don't want to comply with it, if you want to waive it, you have an extra added burden that the ACA, Obamacare, doesn't have. And that burden is you have to prove to the Secretary of Health that you can provide affordable and accessible health care to people with pre-existing conditions.
But you still have the option. What the fact check shows, you still have the option
under the any of the experts say.
Yeah,
well, because they haven't read the bill. Excuse me, they haven't read the bill because the bill hasn't been released. No, they haven't, Barbara, because the bill hasn't been released.
Rick,
so don't tell me what I know. I'm not going to calm down, because I'm telling you this. I'm passionate about this.
Rick,
I'm passionate about making sure that people and families get quality care, and right now they're not getting it.
Take a deep breath. I'm doing this on my own time as well. And Rick, I know you well, and you got very excited. I appreciate it. The fact is, the experts who know this, who understand this, people who have looked at this, have told us very clearly that it's true. There's words in there, keep the coverage for pre-existing, but there's no cap on it. So you could tell someone, yeah, your kid is born with a defect, but it's going to cost you, thousands of dollars a month.
Excuse me.
And that's a
with
fact.
All due respect,
and Rick, in your entire, until I called you,
guys, I've got to go.
Language says affordable and accessible, and that has to be signed off by the
I feel like we're back
Secretary.
in the Senate.
Okay.
Just telling you what the language
says.
is.
You cut out all the money. You cut out all the money for Planned Parenthood. You're leaving 3 million people without that. Come on, this is a miserable bill. And I want to thank John. I want to thank John McCain.
One at a time, but go on. We're going to take a little more time. Go on.
Well, first off, we're not cutting money. We're not cutting money for women's health care. The money for Planned Parenthood is being reassigned to other women's health clinics. That's number one. I mean,
Rick,
Planned Parenthood is a very small fraction of women's health clinics.
No one wants it reassigned but the men of the Senate.
I'm just telling you what the language does.
No one wants it reassigned but the men of the Senate. You and I have gone on for years and years on this subject. People want to be able to go to Planned Parenthood, and you have cut out the funding. That's 3 million people. And the fact of the matter is, every single group that we trust, the American Cancer Society, you name it, they oppose this bill. And why don't you just admit that we should do the regular order, get back to regular order, hold hearings, have the experts. You can testify. I can testify.
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, I am testifying. I am testifying on Monday.
Whoa. Well, I'm not. So that's
well, I
good.
am,
I'm glad
because
you're
I've actually had something to do with this bill, and I actually know what's in it.
I think you guys are testifying right now.
And a lot of these organizations who are opposing this bill haven't read the bill. The bill's just was finalized
Rick,
today. So here's what I would say. Go watch the hearing on Monday. I'll be there. I'll be testifying before the Senate Finance Committee, and look at the report. Look at the score. Look at how it treats states. Most states in this country actually do better under this plan.
And Rick,
get more money and more ability to be able to care for people.
Well, after that, why don't you come back on and we'll discuss this?
Love to do that.
Thank you, Senator.
This bill is a disaster, and I'm proud of John McCain.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I'll see you next time. When we come back, President Trump blasting Kim Jong-un again tonight, calling him Little Rocket Man. But what will happen if North Korea makes good on its threat to test an H-bomb over the Pacific?